here we go again. You have all probably had just about enough of me at this point, but we do still have two more acts to cover. We've got Act 4 and Act 5. Luckily for all of you, Act 4 is pretty short. We're talking 3 scenes and none of them are that long. So, once again, leave a like if you enjoy. You don't have to, but it'd be good if you did. That'd be nice. I'm going to go through each scene, got quotes, got some context, got other themes that you need to know. So, Act 4, Scene 1. So this is where Macbeth goes back to see the witches because he's all like, I'm a bit scared, give me some prophecies. And so they show him 3 apparitions. So what Macbeth does is he conjures the witches and gives them back the power over his destiny, basically. He's like, hey, you controlling my life wasn't bad enough already, you can do it more. So he gives them 3. They give him 3 apparitions. So the first apparition, the quote is, Macbeth, Macbeth, beware Macduff, the Thane of Fife. So this is an armed head rising, and so that's what the apparition looks like. And so Macbeth responds to this well because he already did fear Macduff. Like he was like, yes, okay, that makes sense. I was pretty scared of Macduff. Then the second apparition was, for none of Birnen Wood shall harm... Sorry, no. For none of woman born shall harm Macbeth. They're like... that's the quote. But it's basically like, don't be scared because nobody that's born of woman can harm you. And so this is... The image here is a bloody child rising. And this is taken very well by Macbeth because he's like, well, who is not of woman born? This is great. Nobody's going to harm me. But this is deliberately equivocative, that's quite a long word, as we actually find out that Macduff is not of woman born. He is still born of a woman, but Macduff is meant to be the first ever recorded C-section, which is why he doesn't count here as being of woman born. So he's the one that can actually harm Macbeth. And then the final apparition is, Macbeth shall never be vanquished till great Birnen Wood to high Dunsinane Hill doth came or something like that. Which is basically, so the image here is a crowned child rising, and it's basically saying Macbeth cannot be harmed until the big forest comes to your castle. And Macbeth's like, that's great. The big forest is not going to move to my castle. Again, it's ironic because we actually hear that in the end, the English army, when they come to vanquish Macbeth, dress up as the trees and pretend to be the forest and come to the castle. But yeah, Macbeth can't see through this because he's so wrapped within himself that he can't be bothered to look any deeper into the meaning. And then there is actually a 4th apparition which is shown to Macbeth, which he does not like, where there's a line of 8 kings that has and then the 8th king has a glass in his hand. A glass here is a mirror. And then this line is followed by Banquo, and Banquo is actually seen in the glass, or in the mirror. So Macbeth's like, I don't like this very much, because this torments him, and it's basically saying this is all of Banquo's sons being king. And the line, and he asks the witches, will the line stretch out to the crack of doom? Basically asking, will it go forever? And this is a reference to the divine rule of kings and how they will have a line forever. And it shows that Macbeth that he has no heir, which is a bit rude, but it's fine. He is not a good person. So we hear some quotes here. We've got double, double, toil and trouble, fire, burn and cauldron bubble. It doesn't... I've just seen how high quality these notes are here. I've got not that important, just sounds cool. Sure, that's fair enough. And then, so that's sort of all the important quotes in this scene. But then Macbeth gives his final aside, which is where he says, time... What does he say? Time thou anti-something. He says anti-capitist or something. My dread exploits, which is basically him personifying time to show how he is always in a race against time, pretty much. And then the big part here is the idea, again, that men can't control time, or people can't control time. Again, it's the fate or free will idea. So then that's sort of all that happens in Act 4, Scene 1. We're now to Act 4, Scene 2, which is just context, because really not very much happens. So Macduff has left his wife and children in a very vulnerable position. He's left them alone while he's gone off to England while there's a tyrant in power. So Lady Macduff and son, because it doesn't have a name, have a quick back and forth where they discuss their father, and it is similar to a discussion between Lady Macbeth and Macbeth, and they're basically arguing like, oh, Lady Macduff thinks that Macduff is a traitor because he left them all alone. Then Macbeth decides to send murderers to kill Macduff's whole family, and they are killed on the stage. To show how tyrannical Macbeth is, and it's quite unpleasant, but yeah. So that's all that happens in Act 4, Scene 2, and now we're on to the last scene of Act 4, and we've got the context here of that scene. So we see that the pace of these scenes has suddenly increased. Like, these scenes are so short and they go by so fast compared to the length of scenes in other acts. And so yeah, it's an unwavering pace to show the spiral of Macbeth into death and like falling apart completely. So Macduff has now arrived in England, and he speaks to Malcolm. And so they say new widows howl, new orphans cry, new arrows strike on heaven's face, and he's basically explaining how Scotland is in pain because Macbeth is on the throne and it's all falling apart. And then Macduff tries to convince Malcolm of joining his rebellion to go kill Macbeth by saying, I am not treacherous, but Macbeth is. He's basically saying Macbeth is treacherous, so they should rebel. And he also says, angels are bright still, though the brightest fell, which is a biblical imagery to how Satan, who was the best angel, fell. And this is basically how like Macbeth was a great soldier and then fell. And then there are strange references to birds with Macduff's kids, how they call them pretty chickens, like birds. And then they also say, what you egg. Well, the murderers say, what you egg, and then kill Macduff's son. It's all a bit not that nice. And then we have the final bit of context here is that the news of Macduff's family dying makes Malcolm want to join the rebellion. And he speaks about what it's like to be a man. So he basically says, dispute it like a man, this tune goes manly. And Macduff also creates a contrast to Macbeth as he shows that he actually cares about his family. And he explains that the manly thing is actually that he needs a bit of time to mourn. So that's the end of Act 4. As I said, really not much happens. It's just sort of Macduff having a really bad day. But it does take us up to Act 5, which is the swelling act at the end. It's our final act of the play, which will be in the next video, and that is the whole play all done, and that will be our grand conclusion. Now, just a warning, that is, so Act 5, once again, as we have said, scenes start getting shorter. So yeah, scenes are a lot shorter, but that does have 8 scenes. So that one might be a bit of a longer video, but anyway, thank you for joining me here today on part 4 of our 5-part series. Part 5 should be out very shortly. Hope you enjoyed. If you did, leave a like, subscribe. Thank you, and goodbye.